Hi, and welcome to VIBEZ Daily. This is a daily devotional curated by VIBEZ Church to help you practice the way of Jesus and be all that God has called you to be. You have joined us for our year-long series titled Devoted. Acts 2:42 tells us that the followers of Jesus were devoted to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to breaking of bread, and to prayer. This podcast was created to provide context and commentary for what you read each day. Just before our friends begin discussing today's reading, we want to invite you not only for fellowship, but for prayer as well. We have created the VIBEZ Daily Chat Group to offer you fellowship and a community where you can state your observations, ask questions about the reading or the podcast. You can join us by downloading the VIBEZ Church app in your favorite app store. Click Join the Conversation and join us today. And finally, we hope that you can join us for prayer. Prayer happens Monday through Friday, and more information on that can be found on the VIBEZ Church app under prayer. Now, let's begin our conversation on today's reading.
Hello, and welcome back to our podcast titled Devoted. We are on day 131. Yikes.
Yes.
Look at us.
Wow.
And we are still in 2 Chronicles. We're going to be going through chapters 16 through 19 today. And we've had some great discussion this week about some of these kings. We are still talking about King Asa. For the most part, pretty good king. You know, turning things around for the people, making them, have a covenant. Yesterday we talked about how he kicked out Granny. Granny had to go because she wasn't about that Jesus life or God life, Yahweh life. But yeah, so here we have King Asa in chapter 16. His last years, some of the final things that he did. Talk to me anything that stood out to you.
He just, right in 16, he was like, look, he probably knew these are my final years, so let me just do all of the things right now. He started off, he started removing silver and gold and treasures from the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. He just... Look, he sent messages to the king of Damascus talking about let there be a treaty. Like, he came in like, I got stuff to do. So
yeah, and that kind of hurt my heart, right? Because I'm like, okay, listen, it's kind of like how this Hananiah, this seer, came up and told him about himself in verse 8, because he started doing all these things when at the beginning of his reign, all he had to do was cry out to the Lord. And we saw him cry out to the Lord, and the Lord showed up for him. Yeah. But now he's getting real busy. I feel like we do that.
We do.
Like, before it was so easy to just, call out to the Lord, and the Lord will answer us and provide for us. Yeah. But then sometimes we just get busy, trying to make stuff happen.
And we dig a hole for ourselves.
We digging holes. And so here he sees, some threat from Israel, which... They've already defeated Israel before.
I think King Baasha?
Yeah, exactly. So he goes in, like I said, he strips the gold and the silver from the Lord's house.
You got to know something bad's going to happen from that.
Come on.
you got to know that there's going to be repercussions.
You got repercussions. We stealing from the church. Come on now. It's never going to end up good.
Like I said, it was the final year, so I guess he was like, well...
I forgot everything.
Right. I had a good run.
Now it's time to wild out. And so he sends this money and treasury stuff to King of Syria. What is your second? Damascus, yeah. And so, he sends it to the king. It's just like, hey, there's a covenant between me and you. You got a covenant between you and that Israel. Break your covenant with them and come help me. And I'm like, you could have just called him Lord, which is exactly what this seer prophet says in verse 8. Or first, I guess starting in 7, he says, because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Assyria has escaped you. Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet, because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro. I love this part. The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless towards him. I feel like my CSB version says something a little bit different. Can you read your verse 9 for me?
Sure. It says, the eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him.
Yeah.
What a fool you have been.
Yeah.
That's rough.
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, it says, from now on, you will be at war.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He puts Hananiah in jail.
In prison.
He got mad at him for saying what the Lord said. Asa didn't used to be like that.
No, he didn't. What happened to his heart? But yep, he sure did. He, like you said, was wilding in these last years.
Yep.
And I love how the prophet brought up, like, okay, we just talked about this yesterday, where the Ethiopians had 1 million troops that came up against their little 400,000 that King Asa had. But somehow, or maybe it was 500,000 at that point, but then somehow all of them are dying. The Lord killed all of the Ethiopians. Not a single one of them remained when they had cried out to the Lord. And he's like, well, this is what I was able to do for you in the past, so why are you going to this other king for help when, like, you could have just called me?
And God has shown up and shown up and shown up. So it's just like, what was the disconnect there? Yeah. And if I could skip down a little bit.
Yeah.
So verse 12.
That part.
So Asa develops a serious foot disease. And here's again what I'm talking about with some things are super like detailed and descriptive. Like we didn't have to know it was a foot disease.
Yeah, nobody was a foot.
But a serious foot disease. And it says, yet even with the severity of his disease, he did not seek the Lord's help, but turned only to his physicians. Like,
yeah.
Why, Asa?
Yeah.
What happened? Who did you marry?
Because that's a common theme, right?
It's a common thing. It's just your father's. Hey, that might not have been his crutch, but there was something that happened.
Something that happened there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's a good thought.
Yeah. So, but that led to his death. Like
it did.
Can you imagine?
Going out like that? But yeah, like, and it reminds me, and it's just, to me, it's just like, okay, yeah, you could be on fire for the Lord one day, but like, unless you are like devoted every day, that like fire can die out. And you can forget the Lord. You forget what you used to do. You forget what the Lord's done for you. Like, and we do it so often. And I told my friend, like, okay, I've been good every now and then at journaling things. But I was like, but I think I need to like put like a big vision board up or something where like a poster board, so things don't get lost in the pages of what the Lord's done for me, and just like just something I can look at every day to track what the Lord has done. That's like, I don't have to flip through the pages and read about it. Yeah. Because like it's gonna be so easy. Like, I don't want to get pompous and feel like, hey, I'm rocking with the Lord today. We good. We tight. And then the next day, you're not. Yeah, and it's obviously there's ebbs and flows. And sometimes we're stronger in faith, and sometimes we are struggle bus. But to your point, it's good to see that, because again, just like the Bible, it reminds us constantly. It has the same phrase. It'll have the same psalm. It'll have whatever. We need that as well, because you go from having 1 million tough soldiers being killed to you can't even ask the Lord to heal your foot. So I think that comes also with pride. We just get prideful and all that kind of thing. So it's a good reminder. It's just really a good reminder. It is that like there's nothing that we shouldn't be going to the Lord for. And what it reminds me of is like this like parent-child relationship where it's like sometimes I come upstairs and the kids are doing stuff, and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I just thought that I could just, like, you could just come and ask me. Like, I could have helped you with this. Like, now you've hurt yourself. Yeah, now you've hurt yourself. You messed something up. Like, something's destroyed. I can't fix it now. Yeah. Like, you could have just came and asked, and like, Mommy, can you help me with this? And I'm just looking at this disaster that you made now. And you might be bleeding a little bit. Yeah. You could have asked. Like, I'm willing. Yeah, and I think, though, sometimes even
thank you for bringing up the child-parent dynamic, because I think it also is with us and God. It's just like, well, you know, I can do it myself.
Right.
Or also you can be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because even if you ask in the midst of something, like his foot could have already been messed up, but then if he would have, you know, just humbled himself to ask. And I think that happens with my children and me. Like, you know, I didn't want to humble myself, or I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to deal with the repercussions of what I'm doing. Sometimes you gotta take it on the chin. Sometimes you gotta deal with that.
Yeah.
But that's better than now I'm over my head.
Yeah.
And now he's dead from a foot. So.
Which even to me is just like, even reading this today is like, yeah, like how many times have like, Eric, no, I'd be quick. Like, we going to the doctor. Nah.
I know that.
We're going to the ER.
Where are you? I'm at the ER.
I'm at the ER. I'm at urgent care. I'll be real quick. Listen, guess I know I'm meant for this, okay?
Yes.
We can get this fixed.
You're a whole doctor.
We can get this thing fixed right now.
Yeah.
This is what we need. And so, he really challenges me to stop and pray sometimes. Because I'd be like, baby's wheezing. Listen, this ain't taken. Like, I done tried everything. And so, and so this makes me stop and be like, he didn't pray for the foot. I didn't pray for the asthma.
And what you mentioned earlier this week is, or what we talked about earlier this week is, we're not patient. And so we want to go to the doctor, or we want to get in trouble, and now we're hurt because we're not patient.
Yeah.
We didn't take the time to ask mommy, oh, well, can you help me with this? Well, I'm just going to cut, you know, so what if my finger is cut? And we don't ask, we don't take the time to ask God, hey, can you help? And we don't take the time to listen.
To wait,
Like, you know, you want it instant. Maybe he needs to have you in a moment where you really know how much you need to depend on him. Kind of thing. So
that's really good, though, the patience thing. Because we could pray and days could go by and we'd be like, all right, let's go.
That is me all the way. I'm like,
right.
No, okay, well, I'm just going to do my own thing.
No answer? All
right.
right.
I'm calling Victoria, can you cook? I'm hurt.
I know, right? But that's us. And we have
us.
Biblical examples of people. We've been doing this for thousands of years at this point now. We're human.
Yes.
Well, here we go into chapter 17, though, here. That Asa has passed away by now. His son, Jehoshaphat, is reigning now in his place. And it says in my version, he strengthened himself against Israel, and now he's building up cities and stuff. And but he walked in the ways of David. I know a couple of days ago you mentioned how David like shows up so many times. And so anything that jumps out to you about David as Jehoshaphat as he reigns in Judah, and any of his dealings with anything?
You know, I'm just kind of taking in, like, I think what stood out to me more about this is just how each generation is just different and they handle things different. It's like he got a gentle start.
Yeah.
Like some of these kings have just came in and it's been all kind of, you know, but it seems like he's able to ease into his role a little bit more. I don't know. It's just... Yeah, that's what I see about him in the middle, or in the beginning of this.
Same that I can see here too. Is like it seemed that like he didn't have a whole lot of turmoil as he came in. That there was some good in coming behind his father Asa. Like although he was wilding towards the end, like there still was tons of peace. Like there was still tons of peace, you know, until this little mishap. And I love that, you know, he did seek God and walked in the ways of God's commandments and according to his practices that it says here. But the part that really stuck out to me, honestly, was in verse 9.
Okay.
And it says that they pretty much, or I guess back in verse 8, that like the Levites, and they name a bunch of people, right? And some priests, they actually go out throughout Judah teaching people the book of the law of the Lord. So they have the book of the law. They go out and they're teaching people about the word of the Lord. And this is something I think I've not seen yet before, like in scripture about, as these kings have come along. I haven't seen it because it wasn't even mentioned in the Kings this way.
Yeah.
That like they're even trying to instruct the people to know how they're supposed to live.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really big on the part of this king to like, okay, not only am I going to know the book of the law, right, and have the priest read to me and stuff, but like I really want the people to understand like the Lord, his laws, how we're supposed to be living as a nation. I just feel like that was really good leadership in like shepherding.
And I think we talked about this earlier in the week. We didn't see that done, even with Solomon. We were talking about his own 11, household people that we don't see him. I can't say that he didn't, but Rehoboam as well. He put his wife, it was Rehoboam, right? But he put his wife out of the temple because she was a pagan. But we didn't see an example of him teaching her or teaching anyone else. So I think this is the first instance. Thank you for bringing this up. This is like the first instance that I have noticed as well. So, and I think that this is also kind of what I was alluding to before with how Jehoshaphat's rule is just altogether different. Altogether different. So
for sure. Yeah, because he's doing new things, it seems like. Which is going to be good for the people, because as we found out in the Kings, and we were reading through 1st and 2nd Kings and stuff, and we find out later on, like, this book of the law eventually gets lost in the temple. And, like, nobody knows where it is. Nobody even knew about it, and they just, like, find it one day when they're, like, renovating the place. And so it's like, hey...
You probably should be following this, huh?
They took it to the king like, hey, did you know that there's this book of laws? And he's like, well, I don't know what it is. Like,
who'd have thought?
What's this all about?
Yeah.
And so the fact that, like, we even see a glimpse that, like, there was a time, though, where people were being taught this still in the midst of these kings, and not just back in Moses' time, right? Like, the book of law is still here is really good. So it kind of just continues on, though, to say how Jehoshaphat has, like, sacrificed to the Lord and gotten tributes and stuff from people around him, and pretty much his riches and his army and stuff. Real 2nd Kings author like, right? Where he's showing the plush of that. But chapter 18 here. We see that he has this alliance with the king of Ahab of Israel. Which is interesting because Ahab is married to Jezebel.
We know how that.
Right? So it's really interesting that, like, he just seems like this really nice guy, but it's like, you can't be friends with everybody.
Jehoshaphat. You can't. Jehoshaphat.
You just can't.
Jehoshaphat.
Are we just gullible? Like, I don't know what's happening here. But he's friends with him, and Jehoshaphat, or Ahab asked, like, hey, will you go with me? And he's like, sure, brother. Like, my people, right? My people is your people. And the fact that, like, they were at war at some point with their grandfathers and stuff, and their fathers, but now they're like friends. Judah and Israel, right? Is interesting. I'm like, that must say something about Jehoshaphat. But yeah, so here we are, and he's asking for him to go to battle him. He agrees, or Jehoshaphat agrees to go with Ahab. And any thoughts on this?
I want to just go back to 18:1 for a little bit. Now, it says that Jehoshaphat enjoyed great riches and high esteem, and then that's when he makes the alliance. And he wants this alliance so bad that he had his son marry Ahab's daughter. So he was committed to this alliance. Let's start there.
I'm glad you put that out there.
Yeah. So, that's, here's my daughter kind of thing. Here's my son kind of thing.
You know how that goes.
it doesn't always end the way that we want it to, but let's go a little bit further. What can you just give me a little bit of your thoughts about what's transpiring here?
I think this is the funny part of it all, where it's like he's like, okay, well, first let's inquire of the Lord. So I'm glad Jehoshaphat is still like to his friend, like, okay, homeboy, I serve the Lord God.
Right.
Let's inquire of the Lord. And then he brings these ragtag prophets out here. These 400 prophets who ain't prophets of the Lord. And they're all prophesying like, yes, go up, the Lord will. Yeah. And he's just like, wait, hold on. This don't sound right. Like, where is the prophet from the Lord?
Right.
And
he's like, is there not also a prophet of the Lord here?
Not one? Is there? Mine says, is there yet one man by whom we can inquire of the Lord?
Right.
And yeah, he's like, yeah, there's one. And his name is Micaiah.
What does he say about Micaiah, though?
He said, but I hate him. He's
so
mean. He's mean to me.
And I know Jehoshaphat was looking at him like, if you don't straighten up and be a king, like, really?
Come on.
You hate him?
Yes.
If you don't, he's a whole prophet. That's what he's here for. He's not here to be your bud. Ask him the questions.
Yes. Exactly. It's so funny. You see this in Ahab, where he like pouts too. Like, I don't remember
Jezebel.
That's
right? How that man got his garden
vineyard.
Taken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vineyard, because he's like,
And she won't like, give me a don't worry about it.
Exactly. Right. Off with his head. But yeah. But yeah, no, for real. Like, he's a powder. You can see he's pretty childish.
Yeah.
And
I hate him.
He's like, listen, kings are not supposed to speak like this. Come on. Like,
let's hear what he has to say.
Let's see. And I love how, like, when the messenger goes, is like, hey, Micaiah, they're all saying good things. Just fall in line, play your role. And he's just like, listen, I done told y'all already. I have to say what the Lord says. But when he gets there, he's like, yeah, go up.
Yeah.
The Lord, and he's just like, stop playing with me, Micaiah. Like,
yeah, he already knew that was not the truth.
Exactly.
But mine says, Micaiah replies sarcastically. And I was like, I know it's about to be good now. Yeah, yes. Go up and be victorious, for you will have victory over them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're like,
sure.
Okay, we know. And it's just, but the king replies sharply.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, how many times have I told you, swear to me, speak nothing but the truth. But yeah, but then this prophecy though, like you said, well, it definitely ain't good, because Ahab, you're not living right. Mm-mm. I can't give you a good prophecy if you're not doing good things for the Lord. Like,
right. That's why you hate me.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you the truth.
It's your
And
fault.
these other fake prophets are not telling you the truth. So of course you like him. And then what happens to Micaiah after he tells the truth?
Yeah. Prison. Because these other prophets, all they want is the fat piece of your chicken.
Mm-hmm. They want
the breast.
The breast.
They want a juicy breast to sit at your table and eat some grapes and figs.
Mm-hmm.
And
listen to be fanned and listen to nice music.
Yeah, that's what they want. Because I remember at one point it says these prophets would sit at the table with Jezebel and stuff. When we were talking about Elisha at one point, or Elijah at one point. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, they just want to eat your food.
They did.
That's all it was.
Rough out there.
Come on now.
So, yeah.
And so, yeah, here we are. But I love this prophecy that he gives. It gives us an insight to the Lord and like what it might be even happening in heaven. Like I mentioned when we were talking through the Kings, like, you know, I see the Lord on his throne, and he's just like, okay, so somebody come up with an idea. What we got? We're spitballing here. Like, how can I entice the king of Ahab? And the spirit came forth and was just like, yeah, like I can put a lying spirit in his mouth of all his prophets. And he's like, it's a great idea, let's do it. So
sounds good to me.
Yeah, and so here we are, and he's trying to tell him like this is how it happened. And like you said, he ends up in jail.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, put him in jail until I get back. And he's like, well, if you ever get back,
which I doubt,
then I haven't heard this from the Lord. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fact that he's putting himself out there, like, okay, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong. And it didn't say he put up a fight or he fled. It was like, okay, yeah, I'll be here when you don't come back, or if you do come back, I'll be here. So
we absolutely see them now go into battle. Finally, now, right? They're trying to disguise themselves, and the king of Israel is just like, I'll disguise myself and go into battle, but you wear your royal clothes, and so the king of Israel disguised himself, right? And yeah. Doesn't end well though for Ahab.
It doesn't. But here's my thing. King Ahab, I'll give you your respect. I will be in disguise, but you wear your robes. Already.
Yeah. That's not a good friend.
That's not a good friend.
That's not a good friend.
Why can't you both be in disguise?
That's what I'm thinking.
And Jehoshaphat was like, okay, which was, bless his heart. I'm not saying that he was being naive, but my spidey senses would have been like,
that don't sound right.
Why can't we both either be in robes,
right,
or disguise? Why am I different?
Right.
But didn't really work out for Ahab too much.
Yeah, because to me, I'm like, all it takes is somebody to see a royal robe, shoot an arrow, something from afar. You could be looking the other way. They couldn't even tell who was who.
Yeah, I'm sure it was purple with some crimson.
Right.
Like, it's royal.
So you go with the target on your head.
And I'm gonna
sneak out. Right.
That was rough.
That's rude.
It doesn't matter that our children are married. No. This is how I'm gonna do you.
Exactly. But the Lord, he at least cared about Jehoshaphat enough that, like, it didn't even take any strategy to take out Ahab. It was just like some random person.
It did say
in
that.
33 says, but a certain man drew his bow at random and struck the king of Israel between the scale armor and the breastplate. Like, it just
by hook or by crook, as they say.
This little sliver.
Right, the sliver of my skin is just gonna get perfectly.
That was
the Lord.
All the way the Lord, and one of his angels was like,
and you.
Yeah.
And this is funny thing, because all of a sudden now, turn the horses, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm badly wounded. But it would have been okay if Jehoshaphat was badly wounded. But now it's you. We got to turn the horses.
We got to get out of here. Yep. Then that sunset, he died, and boom, that was it. That was all. It. That's the end of Ahab.
And they don't even, you know how like all of the other kings and stuff, they were like, and they had a pyre, and they did this and this. Well, he died. So
and next, because this author was not about these other folks. He's like, and back to Jehoshaphat, who's still alive.
So let me just, I'll try not to dilly-dally too much, but we know that King Ahab is married to Jezebel, and we've read about Jezebel and King Ahab before. Yeah. But since we're not reading it chronologically, Chronicles. I'm kind of like. So obviously this is at the end of his life. So this is after the vineyard incident. This is after all of that. Yeah. And okay, so all right.
And Jezebel is left by herself. Ruling.
And you know what though? This is probably all Jezebel's idea.
Come on.
I'm not trying to,
But she had all the schemes.
She had the schemes. So this sounds like, and I'm not saying that he wasn't smart in his own right, but what we've seen before is Jezebel's like, oh, you want that vineyard? Yeah. Bet, I'll get it for you.
She had all the ideas.
So, this is interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised too. Like you said, this wasn't one of her ideas too. Yeah. So he did. I just have to say it.
Yep.
Yeah. But and here we move on to chapter 19.
Yep.
Where Jehoshaphat safely returns to his house in Jerusalem.
Praise God.
Right. But of course, another prophet is sent. Jehu, the son of Hanani, who was also the seer, right? So
Did
his son comes out.
Is he the one that was in jail, or was that somebody else?
That was somebody else. That was Micaiah. But
Micaiah,
you know what?
Okay.
That was Micaiah. But I feel like Hannah was actually put in jail too at one point. Listen, these prophets be going through it. Listen,
I guess it's better than being killed, because a lot of them were just
they was being killed and stoned.
Stoned up.
So it wasn't fun being a prophet back then. No, that's for sure.
But that shows you how much they love the Lord. And sometimes we're afraid to say that we're believers out. These people were getting stoned.
Stoned.
Can you think of a worse way?
I can't even. Like, rock by rock.
When the first one hits, I'm like, does someone have a sword?
Right.
I don't.
No, that's like the worst way. Mm-hmm. Like, that's bad. Like, just like you said, where's the guillotine? Like, just
get it over with.
Get it over with.
The humanity.
Yeah, no, that was bad. But yeah, so Jehu comes out and he's just like, so we just helping the wicked now? Like, we just helping the enemy, those who hate the Lord?
Yeah, he didn't even sugarcoat it. He's like, those who hate the Lord. We're helping them?
Yeah, okay. That's what we're doing. And so, yeah, he's like, so pretty much, yeah, the Lord's wrath is about to come, but you've done some good things. You know, the Lord's going to acknowledge you've done some good things. You destroyed the Astaroth and stuff, and you set your heart to seek God. So, you know, he's going to spare you a little bit. But
I love it. Like, it's the cushion method is what I like to call it. I'm going to tell you sandwich. The thing. Yeah, sandwich. Tell you the thing. But then also there's another thing.
There's a thing.
Yeah.
There's a thing underneath the thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I do. So he lives on and fortifies some more cities. And yeah. So I do. I think this author just paints a beautiful picture because we're back to thriving.
I like this. Whoever authored this, we don't know.
We don't know.
His pen game was immaculate.
Amazing.
Like, the way that he put everything.
I need you to write my eulogy. Can you just?
Yeah, this is a literary style that really speaks to me because sometimes, you know, and they did do a lot of genealogy. I feel like begat in this one, but it still flows and it's very, very engaging.
Mm-hmm. I need the narrative type writing and the positivity that this brings.
Yeah, even though there's some rough stuff in there, but some of the things I'm like, oh Lord, help me get through this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts as we close out 19? Does anything else stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, this last little part, verse 8, was really interesting. That like Jehoshaphat appointed certain Levites and priests and heads of families to give judgment for the Lord and to like decide on certain cases and stuff. It really reminded me of Moses and how Moses was like, okay, I need, at the advice of his father-in-law, like I need people to help govern this land. And so it's not just going to be me trying to be the judge of everyone. I'm going to appoint people. And so I do like that, like he even set up stuff like that. Yeah. And kind of govern the land that way. But yeah, I do. I think that like even in all his instructions, it was kind of like, and do this for the Lord. Yeah. Do this in the name of the Lord. Like have the fear of the Lord in you. And so overall, he be making bad friend choices, but
bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
I feel like he had the best of intentions, but he was too kind-hearted in some aspects. And he was missing some red flags.
He was missing the red flags.
But bless his heart, though.
And the Lord saw his heart. And he counted it as, okay. Kind of saved him for his heart. But I think that just brings us to the end of 19 and the end of our week. And next week we'll pick back up. Jehoshaphat's not done yet, so there's still more to his story.
There's more.
But wait. And but for now, you guys have a good week, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the VIBEZ Daily Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or download our favorite, the VIBEZ Church app. Visit vibes.church/devoted for additional episodes, notes, details, and the latest merch. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the Bible. Take good care.